So good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm actually going to go ahead and turn off. Oh, I can't turn off the waiting room. That's okay. Thank you for joining us for part two or kind of the remix of Rising Circulation in the time of COVID-19. We had some, for those of you who were able to join us at CLA, there was some technical difficulties, some hiccups. We weren't able to see the end of this presentation, which I personally was really looking forward to. So I'm so happy that Ellen and April from the East Hampton Public Library agreed to do it all again and tack on the end for us. Their presentation was fantastic. For those who weren't able to fit it in during CLA or who were hearing about this for the first time, I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. We are recording this, so the recording will be shared. So don't worry if you've got to skedaddle early or jump away from the computer or anything. You'll be able to catch it all, and it's 100% worth it. Ellen and April, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you, Kim. All right, well, hi everybody. Welcome back if you're seeing this for a second time, and welcome for the first time if it's your first time. We're so excited to present for you Rising Circulation in the time of COVID-19. A little about us. I am April Hannon. I'm the Children's Librarian at East Hampton Public Library.
I'm Ellen Paul. I'm the director at the East Hampton Public Library. And of course, this is April and I sitting 48 James Pattersons apart as we remind our community to social distance in the time of COVID.
All right, so we get a lot of calls from New York patrons thinking that we're East Hampton, New York. So let's tell you a little bit about us, East Hampton in Connecticut. We're in Middlesex County. We're approximately 13,000 people in the community. We have an average household income of about $99,000, and it's 90% white. A little about how we work. We're a municipal library. We're a town department. We have a library advisory board, so that's non-governing. We are 10,000 square feet, which is a little small for our population size. We have 4 full-time staff and 9 part-time staff. I will give you a spoiler alert. One of those full-time positions is new, but we'll get into that later in the presentation. And our annual budget is $542,000. So here's a little outline of what we're going to be sharing with you today. We'll start back in 2017, 2018, and go into fiscal year, this year, 2021, for circulation. We're going to talk about circ increases that we had before COVID began. We'll talk about circ increases that we had during COVID, and then positive effects that we've seen at our library due to rising circulation. Before we get into it, we just want to give you the tone of our presentation. We're not taking ourselves too seriously. This is an underdog story, so please keep in mind, when you hit rock bottom, there ain't nowhere to go up, baby.
We were definitely at rock bottom. So before we get into what has happened, let's take a look at the numbers. So this is the last 4 fiscal years and our circulation. And you can see in 17-18, we were coming in at about 66,000 items circulated, digital and physical, per year. And so that was amounting to about 5 items per capita, which isn't terrible according to state averages, but for a library that was serving a wealthier, suburban, white community, you know, looking at our peer libraries and our neighbors, Colchester, Portland, Marlborough, we knew we should be doing significantly better than we were. So we had a nice little bump in 18-19. We had another bump in 19-20, even though we were closed for half of March, April, May, and June, so really the last quarter of the fiscal year. And we're projecting a really large bump and finally hitting the milestone of 100,000 items circulated in a fiscal year. The 100,000 is estimated. We're obviously not at the end of the fiscal year. As of May 1st, we were at 83,726. So we are expecting to surpass 100,000 and have a really nice community celebration when we hit that mark. So let's just dig into this a little bit deeper. So these are the first 3 years before COVID. So you're looking at March 2017 through February 2020. I chose to start the graph in March because when we add in our year of COVID, of course, everything fell apart in March. The first 3 years before COVID, most of the months we're seeing this kind of nice step of growth month over month. And in July and August of 2019, we were just flying high. We finally circulated more than 10,000 items in a single month, and we were just making great strides each month, and we were just flying. And I think, like all of you, we were sitting there in February of 2020 and really not knowing what was going to hit us next. So let's add in COVID. So now you see our COVID year in red. We closed to the public here March 16th of 2020. We were totally closed in April. So this little bar here is only digital circ. May, at the end of May, we started curbside delivery of physical material. So you see a little bit here. June, this is digital and curbside physical materials. July, we reopened to the public right after the July 4th weekend at reduced hours. And you can see we had a pretty significant uptick then. August, we are still at reduced hours. And then September, right after Labor Day, we went back to our normal operating hours. And you can see we pretty much achieved parity by then. And the really amazing thing is that in October, we saw an increase from the year before, and so did November. We had this is a 12% increase over December of 2019, a little increase in January, and now by February, we are back to this really nice step ladder. But of course, we're here in May, and so let's just add in the last 2 months, and here's March of 2021, and here's April of 2021. So we've fully regained everything that we've lost, and we've added some. So let's sort of take a look at how all of this happened.
Okay, so we are to the part where we will be talking with you about what happened before COVID-19. So we're going back in time. And these are some of the strategies that helped us to increase circulation. So we've got weeding, rejoining Lion. The library wasn't involved in Lion at this point. Investing in ebooks, the dirty little secret, automatic renewals. And we're also going to talk with you about some intangibles. These are things that we can't prove made a difference to circulation, but they are pieces that became a central part to what we do here and seems to have made some vast improvements.
Okay, so in the beginning, we said we hit rock bottom, and there is no slide that better illustrates what rock bottom looks like than this first picture in 2017. So we said that we're a 10,000 square foot building. Of course, some of that is staff space and community room space. We had 88,000 volumes stuffed into our actual library. And you can see what that looks like here. We've got these broken wooden shelves. We've got books all the way up to the ceiling. We've got books on top of this display rack here. And so we started to pull back all of that material that really wasn't moving. And so you can see by 2018, we've weeded enough that we've removed those wooden shelves and we've made room for people to sit. And then by 2021, hey, there's a window over here. We've created this like lovely space for patrons to come and actually enjoy their library. And so this is our teen space, but the weeding really happened throughout the throughout the library.
Yes, so you don't see any pictures of the children's space in here, but children's made some vast weeding as well. To give you an example, we weeded the picture book section, took out about 1,000 items that weren't circulating, and it made room on our top shelves, much like you see in these slides, these pictures, that we could put display space for the first time in a long time. And it was surprising. You know, you would be afraid people would say, where'd all the books go? They didn't. People were asking us, oh, it looks like you bought all these new books. This looks great. So it was like a whole new collection.
So next we rejoined Lion, and this was January of 2018. I think I've got some of my Lion colleagues on the call here. East Hampton was an original member of Lion back in the 80s. And then in 16, 17, somewhere around like 2002, 3, somewhere around there, East Hampton left. And I think what they did is they just put all of the money that used to go to Lion into the collections, and that's how you get to 88,000 items in one small building. So we rejoined Lion, which was awesome because it meant that even though we were weeding, our patrons had access to the 2.6 million items that were spread out throughout the 30 member libraries of Lion. And of course, Lion at this time, January 2018, was also launching the supplemental delivery system, which meant that we could get things for people quickly. And you can kind of see here our Facebook post. People were very excited, and we saw sort of an immediate boost in circulation the month after joining Lion. Lion also allowed us to offer different ebook services. So in 2017, we subscribed to 3M Cloud Library and to RB Digital, and we were alone in those. You know, it wasn't a consortium purchase. And then when we joined Lion, we were able to offer Overdrive. And that was something that people had asked for by name and was immediately recognizable to our kind of hardcore library patrons who knew that other libraries had Overdrive and wanted it here. We added Hoopla about two and a half years ago. And so you can see the effect of this. We went from 250 ebook circs a month to about 1,500. So that has been an enormous part of our rising circulation.
All right. As I said before, automatic renewals are the dirty little secret, and they're a service that are offered through Lion. And so what happens is your books, as long as they're not on hold, they will be automatically renewed up to 2 times. So of course that will give you an item that could circ 3 times. So that became a nice service for staff. It became a great service for the community. You can see in this happy little Facebook post on the side that people were very excited about that, made it feel easier for people to actually be taking books out. They were less afraid of it being delinquent and all of that stuff. So it worked out really nice.
Yeah, and I should point out with these slides, this was the picture that went along with this sort of Facebook post. So you can kind of see our messaging and our branding on all of this. And then the last thing in this section is really the intangibles. And, you know, we can't prove that any of this stuff had an effect on circulation, but our gut feeling is that it did. Everything that we were doing in terms of marketing and promotion, customer service, and facilities was to make our library a more welcoming place. Unfortunately, we were not known for our excellent customer service or being particularly welcoming in the beginning. And so we did a lot of work to try to convince people to come back. So you got a kind of glimpse at some of our marketing and promotion throughout the last few slides. We're very intentional with it. The tone is conversational. We are friendly. And everything that comes out from the library is very clearly branded that it is our library doing it. we've really focused on customer service. We're a small enough town that we should be making and having relationships with pretty much everybody who comes through the door. You know, I kind of liken it to Cheers, you know, everybody knows your name. We really strive for that. And you get a little picture of it with the weeding slide. We did a lot of cleaning up of our spaces and clearing out clutter so that people felt welcome. I mean, I consider us to be the library's living room. And when you invite people over to your living room, you clean up. So we've been doing that too. So this kind of takes us before COVID. You know, we're bopping along, and then, you know, we're kind of all hit in the face with COVID-19.
COVID-19, you may have heard of it. And just to answer a side question, we did go fine free a couple months ago. And we also have free parking. This is a very small community town. We just have a parking lot. All right, so dark times, COVID-19. I'm sure they were dark for all of you as well. So this is what we did from March to June 2020 while we were closed. We had part-time staff in the building and full-time staff throughout COVID. They were inside the building answering the phones, checking emails and things like that. And to amplify that, here's what we did. We invested in ebooks. We had Hoopla for 5 borrows a month, but we upped it to 8 borrows a month during this time. We did not continue that service once the library was open, just because of the expense. We implemented curbside pickup for the first time. This is something we wanted to do before, but of course, COVID made this the time to begin, and we purchased a curbside rack like a lot of you did, and put that outside and made that convenience for patrons. We still have that. We also had never had a way to get a library card on our website or online started before coming to the library. So we created ebook library cards that town residents could fill out a form online, and we would get them a barcode that they could use. 291 of our community members utilized that service. And Ellen's been alluding to the fact we're very brand heavy here. We try and have a positive message, and we did that with a daily Facebook presence. Every day throughout COVID-19, you would see a staff member in a Facebook Live, perhaps teaching you how to download ebooks, showing different services that we were offering, and just adding a light section to the world. But, you know, all that being said, there were no increases to circulation during this time.
Yeah, and what April didn't say is that I was on maternity leave for a good portion of the beginning of COVID. And so, like, I was checking in with them, but I also had a newborn baby, so I kind of let them fend for themselves. Bad, bad, bad. In my defense, nobody knew that I didn't plan that COVID would happen. But I came back in June part-time, and we decided that things were looking better and that maybe we could figure out how to reopen. And so we reopened just after July 4th weekend at reduced hours, and then at full hours just after Labor Day. So now we're going to talk about the circ increases that happened from July of 2020 when we reopened through present day. And in this section, we're going to spend a little bit time talking about how we reopened. We're going to talk about how our proactive efforts for circulation, how we were just kind of pushing those books out the door. And then we had 3 very large COVID-sensitive events that had a direct effect on circulation. So we'll go into those as well.
All right, so we reopened the building, and please take note of our very happy post on the side. We are open, another positive message into our community. Of course, before we opened the doors, we made sure to work very closely with our health director and our town departments to make sure that we had the plexiglass and all the different safety measures that were required to make sure our community would be safe once they entered the building. We also made sure that we wanted to prioritize accessibility. So Like we said, with 13,000 people in town, we're very small, and we know our community, it's the community's living room. So what we did is we did not have appointments for browsing. People could just come in and use the library. It was just advertised as grab and go services, but you could come in and do what you needed to do without calling first. We also didn't have time limits. We did reduce the amount of time on the computers to 20 minutes for typical printing instead of our 2 hours, which it usually has been. But if somebody on an individual basis needed an extension, we would grant them that, just on a case-by-case basis. And like I said before, we really just tried to have a positive message. We were just as excited to have the community come back into the library as you can see they were to come see us. We just wanted that happy space where people could come again.
Yeah, and I think throughout this presentation, you're going to kind of see that, especially in this section, we really always tried to kind of read the room of our community and respond in the way that we felt that they would respond best to. And so this sort of excited message was meant to resonate with everyone who had felt just so sad to be at home and to not see anyone. And people really responded to this.
All right, so we did try and read the room, and we also knew that our circulation had really tanked and we had some work to do. So we started to get creative, and this is when we get into the real meat of our presentation, proactive circulation. This is when we started pushing books out the door and reminding people what they could get, really. So this is one of our first experiments that we did, and this is called Browse Bags. And browse bags are themed grab bags of 5 to 10 children's books in sealed bags that you can see on the right there. They were all a little different. We were grabbing books that maybe don't circulate as much. Maybe it's a duplicate copy, so if it goes missing, it's okay. Things like that is what we put in the browse bags. That's because these were checked out to a generic library card. So the way that this idea came into play is because we actually had that major storm with the power outage all around the state, and in East Hampton, several of our patrons were without power for a week or so, and you're going into the weekend and you have nothing to do with your kids. So we put these browse bags outside for people to just grab right outside the front door, available for the taking. You don't need a library card because we checked it out on a generic one that we made just for this. So the first time we did it with the power outage, it was very popular. You can see on the side, people were excited. Are there any left at the building? Things like that. And the return rate was pretty good. We put 100 books out that first time. 80 of them came back, so it was 20% loss, not so bad. But you will see that we only did this from July to August of 2020. We tried it a second time going into, you know, honestly, I think it was Memorial Day weekend. I think it was, well, Labor Day weekend, whatever the one is in August is when we did it. And they did not work that time. So we walked outside, it was 5 o'clock, and we see people are ripping open the bags. Our community doesn't like surprises at this point. People weren't sure what they were, if they were books they could keep, things like that. So we tried it, and then we discontinued the service after that. All right, so now we're going to get into exploration kits, which are a little bit more of an advanced version of our browse bags. These are to individualized patrons and families. So exploration kits, which you see on the right, these are curated mystery bags of library materials around a common theme. Think about subscription boxes. This came into play because we were thinking about what do we like at home. We're all ordering all these subscription boxes. We want that personal letter and hand-picked items to take home. So one example of that was Vacation in a Box, and Ellen actually used to design the most fantastic vacation in a box. I don't know if you want to give an example of one.
So they were so fun. So one of my favorites is when I send somebody to the Alps. We have this Alpine cookbook that has amazing photography. So they get that. They get Heidi. They get The Sound of Music. They get a DVD about ice climbing. They get a yodeling CD. and a travel guide to Switzerland. Oh, and I've been recently putting in there the new Ruth Ware book. I can't remember, but it's about like a mystery part and like a murder mystery in the Alps, something like that. Anyway, so fun. I have as much fun creating these as it's like the most fun part of my job. Anyway, and then, I mean, the amazing thing is like, who's actually going to check out a CD about yodeling? Nobody. The answer is no one if I don't force it upon them. So that's what we do with these.
So that was the most fun part about exploration kits, is these are items that we're combining together and curating that people are not going to check out on their own, but make a really fun experience all together. And so the nitty gritty of that is patrons would sign up online with a form on our WordPress website. And kits were checked out to the individual. So we were no longer worried about return rate on these items because they were checked out to a patron. And we did create some new library cards from this because people were so excited to try the service. And so we really tried to provide a personal touch with these, as you can hear from Ellen's Alps, you know, handpicked. And then again, we just tried to focus on community need. We're giving you an example on the right here of our Thanksgiving exploration kits. We had 19 families check these out. We knew that our community was sad that they were not seeing families that they usually go see for Thanksgiving. People weren't traveling. It was a very different time. So what could we do? We created these paper board games. We gave people dice. Every Thanksgiving book we own was put in the kits for, I mean, Thanksgiving books don't go out like this. So it was fantastic.
We were, with 19 kits, we were scraping the bottom of the barrel, trying to figure out how we could like shoehorn books into these kits. Oh, it's got a red leaf on the cover. Great, throw it in there. Pumpkin, sure. But yes, so it's, we still have these exploration kits on our website, and people do still occasionally request them. The Thanksgiving kit was obviously a limited edition one.
Yes. So we continue, we still do exploration kits today. We'll get 1 or 2 a month, but their heyday was July to December 2020, when people were really scrambling for things to do. All right, so we're pushing books out the door from the library. Another way that we promoted proactive circulation was in our early literacy kits. So I'm the children's librarian, so one of my duties is to go to the different local daycares and preschools in our town for outreach story times. Of course, it's during COVID, so I can't go. What am I going to do? Well, I ended up sending video recordings to them, but I also started delivering books. And so early literacy kits were a monthly delivery of books in these tote bags that you see on the side, and early literacy activity kits to the 6 local preschools that I would visit. And so in that bottom left picture, you can see the samples of an early literacy kit. It's got the Public Library Association early literacy calendar in it. And again, we're using that personal touch of designing materials that people can use with our library branding that are early literacy friendly. So these replaced the in-person outreach from before COVID and actually made our service a little more equitable. I was able to get the same amount of materials to every single preschool. It was no longer based on how many hours I had in that week, because we were sending it out the door to everyone the same way. The most fun part about the early literacy kits for our circulation side is that it promoted the library to families throughout our community that we have never seen. These are to our working families that they can't make it in for our morning story times. They've got other things to do, but this made them see that the library is also for them. So while yes, 100 or so books out to our daycares is very important and gives us a little bump, the real circ increase came from reaching families, getting library card applications out to them coming in to visit us to meet Miss April or Miss Jondal or whoever does story time in the videos. And it really just helped us increase that service to that demographic. So you'll see we started that in September 2020. We concluded our school year in May 2021, but we're going to continue the service next year. All right, here's another thing you may have heard of for proactive circulation, and that's the take and makes. Are your libraries like ours? Do your patrons really enjoy take and makes? Our community is obsessed. So when we first started the take and makes, we wanted to supplement our summer reading programs, and we provided crafts weekly in July and August 2020. We ended up changing that to monthly for September 2020 and beyond, and that's just because the demand was too great. We're putting out, now that we have adults as well, about on average 100 take and makes per month. So the demand has changed, and we pared back a little bit. But in July and August, what we did that helped with our circulation during that time is we included books in every single program bag. So we were getting 3 to 5 books in about 75 kits. You can do the math, that adds a little boost to your circulation. Again, the demand was very great and people were transitioning back into the world. So books are now optional in our take and make kits. Families can request that. And we usually get 5 or so families who will request that, and we will include books for them. You'll see we started our take and makes in July 2020. We're continuing them. People love them. This is something we're going to keep doing. And on the right side, just a little reminder of our graph. All the things I just talked to you about, all the proactive circulation pieces helped us get back to our baseline. We're back where we're supposed to be.
That's right. That's right. And so now we're going to transition to talking about our large COVID-sensitive events. And these 3 that we're going to go over really pushed us over the edge. So the first one to talk about is back in October. It was a reimagined trunk or treat around Halloween. So pre-COVID times, we work with our local Parks and Recreation Department on their trunk or treat event. We participate in it. It looks like every other trunk or treat in every other community. Cars line up, decorated, and kids walk through. And in 2019, I think we got like 1,000 kids coming through. So really fun. And Parks and Rec knew that they wanted to continue the tradition this year, but obviously that older version wasn't going to work in COVID times. So their vision was a drive-through trunk or treat at the high school. And we were going to participate in that. And we were all set to decorate April's car as some sort of a Pokemon thing. I don't remember what it is. I never knew what it was.
I have a blue car, and so we made it a Bulbasaur type creature.
Yes.
Pokemon themes that year.
Yes, we have a staff member who is very talented with pool noodles and made, I guess, a bulb. I guess you'd call it a bulb on top of April's car. So we were going to do this. The event was supposed to be on Friday, October 30th, and we're looking at the weather on Thursday, October 29th, and we're seeing sleet, rain, freezing rain. And, I started to think like this, it's not going to happen. Like, they're going to have to cancel this. They're not going to make people stand out in the rain as people drive by. And so we started to think what we could do instead, because again, we talked about this a little bit with the exploration kits and people being sort of sad that they couldn't have a normal Thanksgiving. People were pretty sad that they couldn't have a normal Halloween. So I didn't want to just let this go just because it was bad weather. So we thought, well, the weather on Halloween day looks pretty good. Can we make this into a park and treat event? And indeed, sometime around noon on Friday, the 30th, Parks and Rec canceled their drive-through trunk and treat. And we went up on Facebook 5 minutes later with the flyer that you see here, all ready to go. Trunk or treat might be canceled, but you can still park and treat. And instead of people going to the high school to drive through trunk or treat, they came to the library parking lot and they got candy from Parks and Rec and they got their free Halloween book from the library. We gave away over 500 free books that day. So we drove a lot of traffic to the library, but more than anything, the message was, hooray, hooray, library saves the day. And there's no better feeling than that. Park and Treat was really interesting for us because it illustrated to us that large events were still possible, even though things looked really different in the community. And so it gave us confidence heading into our next large event.
All right, so I'm about to share with you what we did at the winter holiday season. It's a little bit of a level up from Park and Treat. So this is Let It Glow. It is a reimagined Jingle Bell parade into a drive around holiday lighting competition in town. So to give you some background, what East Hampton usually has is a Jingle Bell parade where the community would come down to the library. There would be bands playing, there would be holiday music, you would go make a craft, you would get hot chocolate, and then the entire community would march down to our town center, which is very close by, ringing bells, because this is Bell Town, very many bell manufacturers in town, and Bevan Bells donates these bells to the community. So everybody gets a bell, we jingle it, and we walk down the street. So of course people were very sad that it wouldn't be happening this year, and this is that reimagined approach. And unlike Trunk or Treat and Park and Treat, this was a little bit of a pivot. Now it was no longer us following along from Park and Rec's lead. This was us taking more of a front and center approach to creating this community event. And so we actually had the registrations for Let It Glow on our website, which drove traffic to our website for people who have maybe never seen it before. And we also know that East Hampton loves stuff, like a lot of your communities. And we had those jingle bells in these bags that you see on the right, a very simple bag, almost no expense. It just had the donated jingle bell inside, a little scratch art craft, the cheapest one you get on Oriental Trading, and a candy cane. People could pick up these bags, 300 plus people did. And then we had a Google map that Ellen created of all the families that registered their home to be driven around, and you could see it through the Google map tour, driving around with your little bags, jingling away. Hooray, hooray.
Yeah, we don't know exactly how many people participated in this. We know that the Google map was viewed over 1,000 times. We saw stats on our webpage, easthamptonpubliclibrary.org/glow. We didn't really have a way to track how many people participated. My guess is that it is well over 1,000, but we don't know. But we learned from Jingle Bell Parade, and we took the lessons from that for our largest event, certainly during COVID, but quite honestly, the largest event in the library's history, which was Candyland. So we got an unsolicited $1,000 grant from the Community Foundation in Middlesex County right at the end of 2020. I think I was on the phone call on like New Year's Eve, December 31st. And they said, we want to give you this money, and the only stipulation is that we want you to bring joy to your community. And so we were really thrilled with this idea, because pretty much everything that we had been doing over the last year was with the goal of bringing joy. And we got we put our heads together, and we asked our board and we asked our friends what they would like to see. And we put a message out on our social media, what does the community want to see? And we sort of settled on this kind of crazy idea of building a life-size version of Candyland all throughout town. And what was kind of amazing about Candyland is that although we did have help from other town departments, Public Works helped us out, Parks and Rec helped us out, we had to get permission from DEP for one of the pieces of this. This was really an event that was just the library's event. And we were very intentional in how we planned it so that it was literacy based.
Yes, so we really leaned into the fact that we are a library and we're about books and words and the fun that you can have with those things. And so there were 4 stops around town with Candyland, and they all had a literacy theme. So we had a story walk on our airline trail that you read the book as you went along. Another one that we had is on the lake. There is a park. There were riddles that you had to solve at the lake. And so people really knew this was a library program focused on, you know, words and everything like that. It's something that Parks and Rec couldn't have done. This is something purely library.
And what was amazing about Candyland is, yes, the number of participants, but also the direct effect that it had on circulation. So with Candyland, we gave out Candyland kits. They were basically boxes, and they had a little candy in them, and they had the game board in them, and kind of some tchotchkes. You know, nothing really incredible, but people wanted them. We opened pre-registration for them 2 weeks before Candyland launched, and 1,300 people signed up in 24 hours to participate. So 10% of the town signed up in a day to participate. We ended up making an additional 150 smaller versions of this kit. And so in total, we gave out 500 Candyland kits. People didn't have to come into the library to get those kits. We could put them out curbside, but many people chose to come in to get them. And what was incredible is the interactions that we had with people once they were in the building.
So, you know, we've been handing out stuff all year long. And so I didn't expect what ended up happening on the second Saturday of this program, because Candyland was 10 days. Every patron who came in wanted to talk to me about books, and I was answering readers' advisory questions. And it was families that we've never met. So for example, a family came in, they got their Candyland kit, they saw the children's room because that's where we handed them out to get them in the building. And they looked around, and it's a boy about 10 and his mother. And the mother says, what kind of books would you like? He says he wants Lego books. And, you know, there's still misconceptions out there about libraries. And she says, oh, honey, they don't have books like that. This is a library, blah, blah. And so I was so excited to bring this family over to our Lego section. And he left with a stack. And every family that day left with stacks of books, which you can see with that blue line on the right side. This is the highest circulation we've had.
Yeah, we searched 400 items, 400 physical items in a single day. That Saturday that April is talking about. And a normal Saturday for us is maybe 120, 130, maybe a little bit more than that. So we did, you know, not quite 4 times what we normally do. So yeah, so that kind of brings us to present day. You know, we're planning for summer reading with the same sort of enthusiasm that we've been using throughout this whole time, and we expect summer reading to be bigger than ever. Of course, we don't have a slide for that. We're not there yet, but let's just look at the numbers one more time, because this story, I think, is really just sort of incredible. This sort of breaks down the different pieces of our collection. We've seen a 36% increase in adult and young adult circulation over the last 4 years, far larger in our children's materials, 92%, an enormous increase in our ebooks, 523%. And so in total, we're looking at a 72% increase in our circulation in the last 4 years, which was just kind of mind-blowing, just kind of incredible. So this is what has happened with our CERC. But I guess the question is, what has happened to our library because of our CERC? And this is my favorite slide. Don't mind the animation that we added. But you know what, here's the thing, it resulted in more money. You know, people know libraries to be books. Books are our brand. And so when we go to our funders and we say book borrowing is down, they get the message that the library has little value in the community. But when we go to them and say book borrowing is up, well, that's a need to reinvest in the library. So in 2017, our budget was $427,000, and now we're looking at $542,000. In terms of staffing, last fiscal year 2021, Town Council decided to reinstate our young adult librarian position that had been vacant and unfunded for 18 years. And I know that a lot of libraries throughout the state had a really hard time in the last fiscal year being cut. But I think that it is just truly remarkable that in our town they decided to reinvest in the library. In terms of part-time wages, something that is hopefully on every library's mind as minimum wage is increasing each year, our part-time wages, the town has agreed each year to increase those part-time wages. In 2017, our library assistants were making $12.26, and now as of July 1st, assuming that our budget is passed soon, they will be making $16.90 at a minimum. And then in terms of our building, it's it was built in 86. The town did nothing for this building over the years, and we still have the original carpet from 86, but we're making progress. A new roof, new ceiling tiles, parking lot, and we're looking at some long-range planning for the building for the very first time. But of course, money is not all that has happened.
So we've also gotten and also, I apologize for my mic. I notice every time I speak, the first 10 seconds are garbled, but here we are. All right, so we've also gotten a huge increase in our partnerships. I hope you see throughout our presentation, we're very community forward, and we try and make sure that we're making these connections and reaching as many people in our community as we can. And so our visibility and the story that we've been able to tell with our increase in circulation has increased those abilities. So we have a very good partnership with our public schools, which has been increasing since I've come on about 3 years ago. But to give you a story about that, right after Candyland, I get an email from a third grade teacher in town who says, "We loved that story walk. Let's do something together." And suddenly, wouldn't you know it, the entire third grade class is coming next week to our library for a field trip. It's their only field trip this year because of COVID, so we're very proud to be a part of that for them. We also partner up with our town departments in a heavier way than we did before. There is a town department head who reached out to us and said, "My gosh, the way that you're reaching people, your promotion, I'm willing to lend you the money, you fly, I'll buy," basically, where we're promoting the events and being a part of that and just helping people along the way. So that's been different. And then Ellen got a really exciting call from some of our local businesses as well.
Airline Cycles, which is the local bike shop just down the road from us. We worked with them on Candyland. We worked with them on Jingle Bell Parade. We have a long history with them. Brian, I'm in Airline Cycles one day, and Brian says to me, "You know what? Let's do summer reading big. I want to donate a bike to you." And I was like, "Really?" That's awesome. Totally unsolicited. I didn't ask for it. He just decided to donate a $500 bike to the library for summer reading. And then Old Home Day. If you are from around East Hampton, you know that Old Home Day is the event in town. And this year they can't do it because of COVID, but they saw our work on Let It Glow, and they asked us to participate this year in Old Home Day. And now our logo is going to be on all of that Old Home Day stuff, further reaching people in the community that we know don't use the library. So I'm very excited to see what this sort of partnership yields. So yeah, I think that's sort of the end. So to just kind of wrap up, how did we do it?
How did we do it? So the biggest thing that mattered with the fact that we have such a small staff and we're doing such big detailed things is teamwork. Every single person is running on full wheels. Every single person has a vital role in this teamwork. We're reaching out to our friends of the library. We're reaching out to partners and just making sure that we have people who are able to help us out and to do that. And that they enjoy what they're doing. We're working hard, but we're also having fun. I mean, you saw for Candyland, we decorated the entire town in lollipop pool noodles. That takes passion. And so it was very important for us to figure out who has skills in what, and what can they be doing, and how can we amplify what people are doing in a way that they shine and they're proud, and it also makes excellent service for our community.
Because I am not going to be the one who builds giant lollipops. Like, don't have the talent, don't want to do that. But Erica, who is so lovely, does. And so that was her time to shine. The second bullet point is really kind of a fancy way of saying reading the room. We were very cognizant throughout all of COVID of our own feelings and experiences sort of out in the world. And I think you heard it throughout. You heard that we kind of paid attention to the trend of subscription boxes and found sort of a model that worked for the library. Library staff members have children, and so they knew that Halloween was going to be a disappointment this year, and so we acted on that. We all felt that Thanksgiving was going to be significantly different, and so we acted on that. And so we were really good at just sort of doing a scan of both sort of society as well as our individual community and coming up with relevant library solutions to that. And didn't always work, but I'd say 9 times out of 10 it did.
So we also created a welcoming environment. People aren't going to want to come to your library if they don't feel welcome. And so we continue to have those individual relations with patrons, greeting people as soon as they come in the door, really listening to see what people want. And really, I mean, you could call it upselling. You know, we talk with people and see what they enjoy and translate that into things that they can have, or books that they can take, or problems that we can help them solve.
That is true. And would you like, it's like upselling at the end, and would you like to take this too? And then the last thing is staying focused on circulation. We run our circ numbers every month. I usually run them twice a month. I run them kind of a week before the end of the month, and then I run them the first day of the new month. And we have a morning meeting, kind of a stand-up morning meeting every day. And I think that I'm kind of famous now for on the last day of the month being like, okay, last day of the month, push those books out the door. We are focused on it. We know that it is a goal. And this year especially, our goal has been to get to 100,000. Now, we know that we can do better and we should be doing better than 100,000, but To our community, 100,000 is going to sound like a lot, and we are planning on publicizing and celebrating that milestone as just sort of future, as sort of a way to say thank you to our community and a way to encourage future participation in the library. So I would just kind of encourage everybody to, you know, look at your numbers, include the entire staff in on the goal of Rising Circ, and really make it kind of a team effort. So I think with that, we did it. We made it through. Zoom
We made it. Thank you guys so much for agreeing to do this again. Every community is different, and for those who use the service center, they know in particularly ours, even I'm sitting here taking notes, and you all are my community, trying to think like, okay, we obviously don't do life-size Candyland, you know, up here at the state, but what can we do that's comparable? So I hope that regardless of the different community makeups that we have here, everyone was kind of able to sort of sit and listen and think about how they could adapt the programs and things that we heard about for their own community. But are there any additional questions? Things were coming in the chat that April and Ellen were really great about answering, you know, things about how you make your flyers and all of that. We have granted folks the ability to unmute themselves. So if you've got a question that's not really conducive to chat, you kind of have to like sort of stumble your way through it, use the raise hand feature, and you know, we'll call on you to speak your question. Yay, Jerry thinks you're amazing. I do too. And I think you're amazing, Jerry. I think everyone's amazing.
And thanks for having your camera on, Jerry. It was nice to see like a face.
Is there anything else? I did put the link to our evaluation in the chat. Please, 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 please click on it. We want to be able to share some of this information with Ellen and April. Here's one. I may have missed this. What is the population of your town? Yeah, we did have some folks who squeezed in later. Can you guys answer that quickly?
About 13,000, just under.
Yes, yes. And we, for folks who sort of were able to sneak in a little after the start, we are recording this, and we will make the recording available through the listservs and like emailing you all the stuff we normally do. Erin says, very inspiring. Thank you. And congratulations, Erin, because you got a new job. Yay.
Oh.
I know. Social media tells me everything. Thank you for sharing your enthusiasm. That's to you guys, probably not me.
Always very enthusiastic.
I'm mostly tired and doing my best. I mean, we've got about 2 minutes left. I mean, if there's no other questions, then I wish all of you, you know, a great rest of your day and a happy 3-day weekend for everyone who gets it. But don't be afraid. Any burning questions, specific, non-specific, congratulations on your success. Absolutely. And for people who don't know, East Hampton just won an award at CLA this year. I can't remember which one. Best pop for the population of under 13. What was it? I don't remember.
The Public Library Service Award.
Yeah, for population, like, yeah, that one. So congratulations.
Maritza, I go way back to when I worked in New London in 2011.
New London.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, those streets are weird over there. Sorry, I'm from Groton. New London, every time I had to drive into New London, I was like, are their streets weird? I don't know what's going on. I'm so lost.
From Groton too.
Yeah. There it is. All right, I'm glad you agree. I have no hatred against New London, but for some reason, when you crossed that bridge and had to drive over there, it was a very complicated.
You know what we called Groton in New London.
What?
I do. I grew up in Groton.
You did?
I did. We have that in common.
Yay!
Yes.
You guys talking trash?
Groton.
Nah, it's not. Submarine capital of the world. It's on a sign and everything. All right. Well, okay. And now that everyone's heard about the far southeast of Connecticut, thank you all for your time. We will make sure we get this recording out in a timely manner. For people who have a 3-day weekend, enjoy it. I plan to. I think it's gonna rain the whole time, but like, we're librarians. That's prime tea and book time for me anyway, and plant watering. I've got 14 plants. So, all right, well, thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, this was fun.